I'm musically trained enough to understand what it is to play most instruments and things. So, I mean, I think that's a really important trait in a producer, certainly, to understand when a guitar part is unbelievably difficult and possibly past the talent of the person playing it, to know, like, hey, why don't we slow Pro Tools down a half step and retune you, or capo, or whatever, find ways to get the performance you're trying to get by understanding what it is to perform it. But no, I don't play. So, but recording guitars,
Yes,
which
yeah,
was
yeah,
the
'cause
original question.
They seem like a player, someone who really understands how
Well,
they should
I
sound.
just love guitar. Rock bands are my favorite thing, so it's just something I love. But I'm very conservative in terms of recording guitars. There are lots of people, like Joe Barresi is a great example of somebody who knows every single amp ever built, every pedal ever built, every pick. He will choose the pick for the part, and then when you move on to mic techniques, he'll switch preamps based on the part, because he knows how it'll respond to that type of guitar tone. I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. I take an SM57 and a 421, I duct tape them together on one stand so that the diaphragms are lined up, and I stick it directly into the center of the cone. And that's
Okay, so
it.
right on the center.
Right in the center, which of course, that's a dust cover, that's not a cone. So I have no idea, but to me, that sounds like the amp sounds. And that's all I'm trying to do, is capture the tone that's coming out of the amp. Now, every once in a while, that won't sound right, but then when I walk out into the room, it sounds really good. And then I'll start messing with it, either angling, usually just backing up a foot or so.
I was going to say, what sort of distance are we at?
I'm right on the grill.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And because that's my starting point, and 90% of the time it works. And I think really it's having the two microphones gives you so much in-phase low end that it's big. So that's the key to that. And it's different from just EQing in a bunch of low end.
Yeah.
And the mid-range on those two microphones are so different that the blend of them gives you a really natural kind of coverage of the mid-range, and so it sounds like the amp. I see other people record guitars with Royers and things and stuff and room mics, and it sounds amazing, but every time I try and do it, it just doesn't sound up.
I guess there's not necessarily, certainly with the way you mix, there's not necessarily so much call for room sound for,
No, I mean, unless it's a really special tone, or it's by itself a lot, or something like that's very distinctive. I'm just trying to make it sound like the amp. And yet there's no room in my mixes for anything. Those guitars need to be that big because they've got to barrel through. They can't be this big, because then they just get stepped on.
Should we talk about bass then before moving on?
Yeah, it's another really simple one. I mean, take a DI always. I use an Evil Twin is my DI of choice because I own it and it sounds really good. And then if the bass amp sounds good, then I'll stick two microphones on it. And again, right in the center, and they're usually 10-inch speakers, so you can't get two mics on one speaker, so just any two speakers. And really, it's about the mic stands. That's how I choose the speakers. Whatever physically is easy, go there. And if it sounds bad, try another speaker, because there are usually 8 of them. So you've got lots of choice. And obvious stuff, 47 FET and an RE20 might be really good. On the bass, I do try and have one condenser and one dynamic, just because the response is so different. The condenser, if you get lots of low end out of it, fantastic. But what you're really going to get out of that is the grit and the sort of tone. And then the dynamic, it's just a dynamic, so, hopefully more of the low end. But again, those two microphones really in phase, that's what gives you all the really good low end of the recording, whereas one microphone just doesn't do it for some reason.